Hi there, this is Cam Shea, and joining me is Luke Riley.
Yes, I am joining you.
You are indeed, and it's lovely to have you, Luke, for this review commentary for Audiosurf 2, a game that I've just reviewed for IGN. It's out on PC, Linux, and Mac. And I should mention that it's officially out, but it's been in early access for close to a couple of years, for quite a while.
Yep.
And so there's quite a community kind of around this game, and there was a massive community around the original game too. And it's out of early access. It's got a brand new, really nice user interface, and yeah, it's a significant step up from the original in a lot of ways. So what we might do is just kind of hop into mono mode, which is kind of the signature mode of the original game, and remains the signature mode in this game. And yeah, you can take a look at what it's all about, and let's see, we'll choose a skin. See what it's about, and I'll kind of explain like how mono mode has changed since the original. Now, I've been playing with my personal music, obviously, because that's kind of the point of Audiosurf. Is you take your own tracks and it generates a level for you, and then that's the gameplay is based around your music. But we don't really have the rights to use much of that stuff, or any of that stuff, I should say. So I've just grabbed some kind of music from that we can kind of license. So it's a little bit on the poxy side. I gotta be honest, I didn't spend too much time looking for it. I haven't really given these. I think I've played a couple of these levels once. So this might be a bit of a disaster, but this is really just me kind of showing you what the game's about anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So yes, this is mono mode. So like Audiosurf is kind of a bit like a rhythm action game meets like a match 3 puzzler or Tetris or something along those lines. So here you can see on the left hand side, you can see the kind of peaks and troughs of the track. So when the music's building, you're physically climbing, right?
Okay.
And then you'll see there's like kind of these lines on the peaks, and they kind of represent kind of when the music really kicks in. And there's gameplay associated with those moments, which I'll show in a sec. Now you can see any blocks I'm collecting are gathering down below in the 3 lanes. And the idea is to try and fill those all 3 lanes, the grid, in its entirety. Because the more full it is before the blocks disappear, and they do disappear after a period of time if you're not collecting other blocks or hitting a spike or something. So they do disappear. So you want to kind of keep collecting stuff, and if one lane's full, you kind of avoid collecting anything in that lane, because really, like, if you want to get high scores, you need to be paying attention to the grid. So that's a full grid right there, and I get more points, significantly more points than if it was missing 1 or missing 2 or missing 3. And that's kind of what the gameplay is geared around, is filling that grid. So it's kind of tricky
before they vanish.
Before they vanish.
And you're saying you could even hit a spike. To restart that.
To reset the kind of countdown. Okay, I'm not doing too well here, but that's okay. So I want to avoid that middle lane right now. And just fill this lane, but unfortunately I was running out of time. Now this here is a power-up, and this is new to Audiosurf 2. And the power-ups are on the track where those spikes on the timeline on the left are. And what the power-ups represent is another opportunity to really boost your score. So the more full the grid is when you run into the power-up, the bigger the score boost you get. So it's this other layer to the gameplay where you're not only trying to kind of fill your grid, but you're trying to pay attention to where the power-ups are on the course so that you can hit them with a full grid. And as you said, like, you might need to run into a spike or two to reset the timer to kind of, if it's going to work out awkwardly. So there's a lot of strategy here. And yeah, so I mean, Audiosurf 2 is kind of an interesting game because you can play it as like a very kind of rigorous, like, high score chaser where you're really trying to perfect your run. Or you can really just play it for fun and just see how it kind of influences your music and see how it represents your music, because it's sometimes it can be quite amazing how well it syncs up. Like, the algorithm they use for the sequel is significantly more sophisticated than the original algorithm. So the music's really, the gameplay's really tied to the music, and the course is really tied to the music. And like, there's one track that I particularly love, which like I kind of was using to learn the ropes of the game. and work out how the scoring system kind of all fits together. And so I wound up playing it a whole bunch of times to try and get to the top of the leaderboard in it. But the reason I got so hooked on it was just because, sometimes like when the track kicks in, the way the course ahead of you like whips and snarls, and it's almost like you've got a leashed beast that you're trying to kind of contain.
Yeah.
And so it's just got this real feeling of energy and vivacity about it that I really, really like. So yeah, you can kind of play it as just like, hey man, this is just cool visuals. I'm gonna like explore my music collection, or you can try and really chase leaderboards and really try and perfect your run. I should kind of mention that a change that some original Audiosurf people might not like, but that I've actually come to think is a good thing, is that the note highway. What I might do actually while we're talking, I'm just going to pick. Actually, I'll go with where is it? Free ride. We'll choose a different skin.
The dusk
I'll show you dusk because dusk is super cool. And then you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually use Soundcloud because it's got Soundcloud integrated into it, so you can search your collection and Soundcloud simultaneously, which is awesome. And I'm just going to put on a track from a friend of mine because I doubt he's going to sue me. So thank you, Costa, in advance. What track am I going to go with here? Let's just go with this one. All right. So yeah, like in terms of the way the mechanics work, the actual highway ahead of you, the blocks and the spikes aren't the same every time. In the first game, they were the same every time, so you could effectively memorize a course. But that's not the case for the sequel. So you never really, it's all kind of variations. Like the actual topography of the course is the same every time. I wonder if it's going to kick in. There we go. The topography of the course is the same every time. The spikes are at the same place every time. But the actual blocks on the course are different. So that introduces like a random kind of element to the game that could definitely like have an impact on your score at the end of the level. And it also means that you don't really know what the sequence of blocks and spikes is going to be when you're leading into a power-up. And they're kind of like the really crucial moments to get right to get to beat your high score. But I kind of feel like even though it's random and you in all honesty you might need to just keep replaying the level until you get that sweet run. But I think it also actually just makes the skill ceiling a bit higher because you're not able to memorize the course. You're reacting to the course, so it kind of tests your ability to be reading the grid at the bottom of the screen at the same time as dodging and weaving and making decisions about what you're collecting and what you're not collecting, and also kind of keeping an eye on the horizon to look out for the loops when a power-up comes up. And so I personally spent quite a lot of my time when I first started playing the game just enjoying the music and trying out different skins and stuff. But then I got quite obsessed with one track in particular, and the global leaderboard was only like 8 people or something. But just trying to beat my own personal best and just really trying to get into the zone of juggling all the stuff you need to pay attention to. And once I got my head around how it works and what the optimal way to get high scores are, it was super satisfying smashing my personal best and smashing the other scores on the leaderboard. And that's kind of the beauty of this game is you can just explore your collection and challenge just other people in the world on just random tracks. And chances are, if the music that you want to play is in any way popular, there'll probably eventually be a leaderboard for it. So let's just hop out of here. And I'll just show you, so there's a track of the day and stuff. So you can see global leaderboard, regional leaderboards, that's the Australian leaderboard, friends leaderboard. It's got cool stuff like dethrones. So if I post a score and then somebody beats it, then I get a notification and I can attempt to, get it back. Which is really nice because what it means is I guess you kind of seed scores out, on some of your favorite music, and then you might be months down the track, you just get reminded, hop back in and see if you can top that score. So we might just quickly chat about the other modes because so far we've just been talking about mono, and that's because it's the mode to play, I think. But there are a few kind of variants on mono that are quite good. And then there's most of these modes are returning from the original game. And the reason mono is called mono is because there's no colors. It's either a block or a spike. But there's a bunch of other modes where there are multiple colors and you're trying to match sets of 3 or more And that's very difficult. And then they kind of layer other stuff on top, like shifting notes left and right as you collect them, or holding a note that you collect and then using it later, or that kind of idea.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe there are people out there who really love those modes, but for me, they kind of feel a bit at odds with the pace of the game and like the reality of the game. I mean, I guess if you find the right music to suit those modes, it would work. But I kind of think it's a couple of systems too many. And that's why like mono is so good, because it's quite pure. But yeah, then there's Wakeboard Mode, which is like kind of the signature new mode for this game.
Yeah.
And let's choose a different skin, and we'll just choose one of those licensed tracks. I don't know, whatever. We'll see how this works out. Yeah, so this is kind of the signature new mode. It remains to be seen kind of how much of a community builds around it, because that's kind of the thing with the leaderboards is like if nobody's playing a mode, the core gameplay just has to be really satisfying, or you're just not going to really bother with it.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a catch-22. All right, so there's not that many spikes on this level, but hopefully we can get somewhere. So same kind of idea. You're building the grid at the bottom, and then you're looking for kind of launch points. So points where the music kind of really kicks in are kind of represented by kind of a literal drop, right? So when that happens, you launch into the air, do a big trick, get points. So that's kind of the crux of the wakeboarding mode, and it's kind of fun, but I just feel like it's pretty kind of busy, and so I don't know. I don't think it's quite as elegant as the mono mode.
Yep.
Because I find it quite hard. I mean, this skin's maybe not a good example, but I find it quite hard to really judge, what's happening with the grid. So yeah, so that's wakeboarding mode. So yeah, for me, like this game's all about mono.
Okay.
And that's what I'll continue to play. But that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
And because it's been in early access for so long, there is a heap of other skins to explore and a heap of other modes to explore, and then people will just keep adding to them as well. So for those people who want to just check out what else this game can do, because like some of the mods radically change the gameplay. They turn it into a shooter, or you're flying through space, or there's, all this different stuff. So the community around it is going to keep this game kind of interesting. But I think that mono on its own is like enough to really make this a game to recommend.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I should just quickly mention is that I would really love if the kind of music browsing was a little bit more powerful. So what I'd really like to be able to do is favorite songs.
Yep.
Because as it stands, like there's a recent songs section, but there's no favorite song section. And, like I might have played 10 songs, but I might have only really loved 2 of them. And they'd be the ones I want to go back to, and I want to be able to see at a glance which ones those are. And the game also like kind of searches your hard drives and kind of catalogs your music for you. And I would love it if they cross-reference that with their existing kind of database of what tracks they have leaderboards for online, so that when I'm like looking through a folder, maybe, the ones that have leaderboards already for the mode that I'm kind of in the main menu, and now I'm looking, maybe they're like in a different color or something to indicate that. Because as it stands, you like, you choose one, then you go back and it says, wait, we'll see if there's one for mono. And it says, nope, nobody's done this combination yet. And so it's kind of a bit clunky. And when you're searching through like thousands of tracks, especially like when it comes to dance music, because so much dance music's released, I'd really like to be able to boil it down to, I can see at a glance, this song has a leaderboard, so I'm going to give it a crack.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of like directs me a little bit more. But by the same token, as I said before, you can just play courses and kind of seed out scores. So that's appealing too. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about with this game, but honestly, I think I've just rabbited on far too long. So thank you for listening to me, Luke.
That's all right. I mean, like I mentioned this earlier to you, but seeing this for the first time today, I can see how it's a game that feels to me like it's informed by the likes of Amplitude and Frequency, which are games that I did play back in the day. And also, there's obviously a little DNA in there. Like you got your Vib Ribbon. That was a game that was quite ahead of its time.
Yep.
It took your own music and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But what is it? Is it just the sheer number of tracks that become available just because it?
Yeah,
just because that's how it functions.
That's a big part. The community aspect's a big part, and this is its own take on rhythm action. There's no rhythm action game that's exactly the same as this. And it's the core gameplay for Mono is really compelling. So people who like this would probably do well to check out some of those other games.
Yep.
I
think
the
control input is seems fairly straightforward. Like, it looks really difficult, but all you were doing is you're A, either using the mouse, or B, either using the arrow keys on the keyboard, and it snaps to the middle, and you go back and forth left and right.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
It seems quite daunting at first, but before you know it, you kind of have got your eye in, and it suddenly is much more about strategy than just, oh my god, how am I going to keep up with this? Mind you, you'll throw tracks on that are just crazy, and there are significantly more difficult versions of Mono than the one we've been looking at. There's something for kind of every skill level, I think.
Yeah. Have you tried, are there certain genres of music that just won't fit with Audiosurf 2 here? Because as you know, I'm a massive house music fan, and that's why you asked me up here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was the least busy person downstairs.
Well, Luke, let me tell you, house works, drum and bass works, techno works, deep house works, deep tech house works, deep progressive house works. It all works.
Oh, okay.
No, in all seriousness, I haven't tried that many, but we were playing around yesterday, and we, Leif came up and we threw on this popular Arabic song that he knows, and it was great.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, it worked really well. So I don't know about straight up rock, but I reckon pretty much anything will work, and you'll get an idea as you play. So I don't think this is necessarily just for kind of dance music people. I think this is just for people who love music and want to interact with their music in a kind of fresh way.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's interesting then.
But I guess you'll have to give it a try and report back.
Well, maybe I will.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to give it 7.5. I love the look. I love Mono. I love how moddable it is and how much of a kind of community there is around that aspect of the game. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the other modes on offer. And I think that there's some kind of key things that would make the music collection, searching side of things much more manageable. But hopefully that'll come with time. So, thanks Luke.
Right on.
And catch you later.
Will do.